first time here, and it's huge. I'm Bobby Ariel. I cover television for the Los Angeles Times, and I'm going to be your moderator today. The lights are really bright, Jenna, just FYI.
Thank you so much.
So I'm not off book, so if you'll allow me to read this intro, I'd appreciate it. So, in the first 3 weeks, Wednesday became the second most viewed English language series in Netflix's history, amassing more than 1 billion hours of viewership from more than 150 million households. I think my niece Viviana was a portion of that. It also garnered lots of fan love on social media, especially Wednesday's dance scene. The series is a sleuthing, supernaturally infused mystery, charting Wednesday Addams' years as a student at Nevermore Academy. Wednesday attempts to master her emerging psychic ability, thwart a monstrous killing that has terrorized a local town, and solve the supernatural mystery that embroiled her parents 25 years ago, all while navigating her new and very tangled relationships at Nevermore. So I'm very excited. Please welcome SAG Award nominee Jenna Ortega.
Awkward standing there, just like waiting.
Were you like, I would have said that differently?
Well, I was gonna come out, but then I also didn't want to be standing right here when you were saying all those really nice things, so I just decided, okay.
Have you been here before?
I've never been here.
I never. Is this what it's like on a set with like?
No, well, sometimes if they move like a flag and you're not ready for it and you're standing there, but not, it's not too bad. Yeah, I'm kind of used to it.
Well, first of all, congratulations on the success of the series. I mean, it is receiving so much love from fans, and it's already been nominated for a number of awards, including your SAG nomination. I'm curious, like, how have you handled this level of attention on you? There's no handbook for it.
It's, to be honest, been a really stressful time. That's like, yeah, I mean, I don't think I was anticipating that many people tuning into the show, nor the reaction being so positive. So I think at first it was kind of the surprise of that, but then also, yeah, I'm just not used to that kind of attention, and it's exciting, and I'm really, really happy that, you know, like my cast and crew know how hard everybody worked on that show, that they're getting the recognition and offers and things like that they deserve. But then, yeah, it's very startling, and it's definitely takes some getting used to.
Well, and I know that you were initially hesitant about stepping into the shoes of, you know, this iconic character who's been played memorably through the years by other actresses, including the late Lisa Loring and Christina Ricci. Like, what about this telling of Wednesday felt new enough for you as an actor to want to say yes?
I wouldn't even say it's necessarily that. It's just there's not. I can't think of a Latina character who has the same reach as Wednesday Addams does. So the fact that Netflix was so willing and so adamant about a Latin person being cast in a position like this, if all I've ever wanted to do with my career, or something I definitely want to accomplish with my career, is give representation to people of color, and for them to be shown in positive lights, and not just be, because it's often the side character who carries their flag on their shoulder, and it's their entire personality, and there's nothing interesting about them other than the fact that they're Hispanic, and then also possibly gay, because they like to check 2 boxes with one character. Exactly. So Wednesday was an opportunity where, okay, well, they're reaching out now. This is something now. She's an iconic character, and yeah, I just wanted to be able to show that side of her, because it is there. And there's, you know, Gomez and all that.
Right. Well, and I know that Al Goff and Miles Miller, the creators and showrunners of the series, have talked about, you know, when developing Wednesday, it was very important to them to sort of not follow the typical shy to confident arc of teenage female protagonists. Like, Wednesday is somebody who starts strong and stays strong through the series. What about that? How did that framing inform your performance or the choices you wanted to make with her?
Oh, that's so strange, because I don't know. I guess I don't think I've ever come across a teen teenage girl character that I've played that wasn't strong. I feel like they've kind of always had that quality. I think just growing up as a woman, especially in this day and age where everyone is so much more vulnerable with social media and, you know, everyone across the globe being able to connect to you somehow. But for Wednesday, it was a bit different. I guess because there's so much about the show that doesn't naturally make sense for Wednesday in terms of her, you know, she's trying to battle a serial killing monster the whole time. Wouldn't she enjoy people being murdered? Like, I don't know, there's a lot of aspects to where her being nasty or her natural morbid taste could be distasteful. So I think for me the balance wasn't of, oh, she's weak, she's strong. She's consistently strong. Strong people can cry. Strong people can have emotions. Strong people can finally give their roommate a hug after knowing them for 6 months. You know, it's just a matter of making sure that everything wasn't jeopardizing why everyone loves Wednesday as a character and her being so bold and nasty.
There's a lot that you have to take on in this role. I mean, there's canoeing, there's fencing, there's speaking German, there's playing the cello. Talk a little bit about like how you sort of had to work in those elements in your performance.
Well, I started fencing and cello lessons 2 or 3 months before we started the shoot, and then I continued them throughout the 8-month shoot in Romania. So those two were, well, cello more than anything too, because we had a lot more fencing sequences, but they had to be cut because of time. It was whenever we could get a lesson in, so I know we hit the ground running. We had 2 weeks of rehearsals, and that's when we were doing the archery, canoeing, fencing. I didn't start doing the German until a week or two before we actually shot that scene. But it was show up to set 2 hours early, do the 12, 14-hour day, then go home and then get on a Zoom and have whatever lesson that I had, or had whatever cello lesson that I would show up to my apartment and my cello teacher was already waiting for me. It was like that sort of thing where it was just constantly go. And then if you could, on a weekend, if we weren't shooting the 6th day that week, it was all right, well then we'll get your lessons in on that day if you couldn't do it tonight, you know?
Give me your canoeing or cello horror story.
I would say that the first piece that I play, Paint It Black on the cello, Danny Elfman's score, I had not touched a cello until about 2 months prior, and the score that Danny wrote, I got maybe 2 weeks before we shot it, so I didn't get to practice with my first cello teacher. I had to practice with the second Romanian cello teacher, so that was already weird switching teachers, but also the piece is made for 2 cellos and not 1, so I have to pretend like I'm playing it. I didn't know where my hands were even supposed to go, and then I had to pretend like I knew what I can make 2 cello sounds come out of 1 cello, which was ridiculous. So I did not get any sleep. I pulled my hair out. There's so many FaceTime calls that my dad answered of me hysterically crying. And then I remember Tim being, don't worry, you're going to do great. It's going to look great. But I put such a pressure on myself because I wanted cellists to be able to watch it and feel like it was actually done right, because I can't imagine how annoyed string players get with that sort of thing. So I put an absurd amount of pressure on myself just for us to finish shooting it in maybe 20 minutes.
Was there an option of like, we can get a double for this, or we can work around this?
Yeah, and that was the thing with the show. We started running out of time because Wednesday is in pretty much every scene. So towards like as the episodes go on, they had to start using stunt doubles or occasionally a cello double if they didn't have time to get hands. But I was very adamant about being as well prepared as possible because I wanted them to be able to use myself, because that's so much more believable if you can see her face in the shot. So. Right.
So in this time, the break between seasons, are you still practicing the cello?
Well, I actually, if Netflix is in here, I actually would love to start the cello lessons as soon as possible. I haven't been able to because I want to be Netflix. Well, because we had to cut so much because again we didn't have time. So I had like 3 other cello pieces prepared that were cut, and we didn't even get to shoot. So I'm ready to do those songs whenever. But yeah, I've been traveling around shooting and I haven't been in the same place, so it hasn't been. I've been doing other characters and and now I know that this is coming up, so I probably should jump ahead of the curve.
We should have brought a cello so you could just start practicing.
I think nobody needs that. I think that would be really vile and offensive to everyone.
I don't know. I think in comparison to me, it would do pretty well for you.
I still know Paint It Black, but at the back of my hand. I can do that one in my sleep, for sure. I know that. And then Vivaldi, The Four Seasons. Not well, but I can do that.
Interesting. Well, tell me, I know when I take on a story that I've never done before, or it's just the magnitude is different. There's insecurities. I imagine there was insecurities before taking on a role like this. Tell me what those were, and with the season over, what did it illuminate for you about what you're capable of as a performer?
Well, I think a big part of my I was very hesitant to do the show, and I actually kind of turned away from it a couple of times because it's been done so perfectly. First of all, the 60s show is incredible. It's the only time we see Wednesday that young. Lisa Lauren, may she rest in peace, she's a legend, and she created, the first Wednesday dance. And then the 90s, it's like, well, that established a whole new Wednesday. We had never seen her so deadpan and sarcastic, and the Wednesday that everyone is obsessed with now is something that Christina Ricci created when she was 11. So I didn't feel like, I didn't want to ruin that. So I think the thing about making Wednesday a teenager is it's really, really funny when 8-year-old is saying really morbid, horrifying things because, oh, they're so cute. And then when you're 16, it's, get a grip. Like, you should know better, you're rude, and no one likes you. So it was, how do you still make her charming? So I felt like I realized there had to be a naive nature to Wednesday so that she truly did not understand what the problem was, so that it didn't come off like she was trying to get under people's skin or was toxic and manipulative for a specific reason. It's just she had no other way of operating and just had really poor social skills in navigating. So there was that, but then, to have an emotionless character, not necessarily emotionless, but deadpan character, have an emotional arc throughout a series and never betray her natural instinct was really, really difficult, and I felt like that was a conversation that we were having every day on set, and I can truly say I don't think there was a single time where I came home from work and felt at peace with the decisions that I made. Like, I feel this job has kept me from sleeping ever since, because I just lay staring at my ceiling, why didn't I make this decision, or why didn't I do that? Like, I will never be able to rest. So thank you.
What's the scene that still makes you think that? Is there still one that you're like?
There's so many. There's so many. I could be. What's like a really big one?
You're amazing, girl.
It's the perfectionist. I don't know. I feel like the family episodes were really hard. Like justifying, why I thought. Why I was annoyed that my dad was in prison for murder or something like that, that was weird.
Well, I know that you recently released a book called All Is Love, where you share, personal stories, and there's moments of affirmation, but... Oh,
sorry.
I did not.
I'm really nervous all the time.
I thought that this was going to be another hoax, and I was like, oh no. And there's affirmations in there, and I'm wondering, were there any affirmations that you turned to during the process of making Wednesday?
No. No, it was just panic.
Just panic. Okay. That's honest. Well, as you sort of alluded to, so much of your performance comes through your eyes and what is left unsaid. How did you find your way through, channeling or managing your character's emotions in that way?
It was difficult because I naturally am very expressive. I think my face makes a lot of reactions before I even realize it, like 2 seconds ago. And I know with Wednesday, she doesn't say a lot. I felt like fortunately I knew I was doing the job a couple months in advance, so I would. Sometimes when I get characters and I have time to sit with them, sometimes I just like to wake up and pretend like I'm them when I'm bored, or, like walk to the grocery store. So I'd walk, as Wednesday, I try to be as still as possible. I learned to okay, well maybe my eyes will notice something before my head does, or, just so that because she had been a cartoon strip before, I just wanted everything about her to be different and for it to kind of be like a cartoon. Because I also feel like when you do something supernatural like this, especially with a teen series, if you take everything too seriously and everything is too realistic, then it's a bit melodramatic and a bit corny. So I didn't want to do that. So as long as I played into the fact that this all was absurd and weird, and I feel like they heavily leaned into that in the 90s films, with the fencing sequences and things like that, I just felt, okay, well, if my movement feels as unnatural as possible to me, that's probably a good thing. It didn't make me feel better on the day because it didn't feel natural, but I also felt like this job was really, really exciting for me just because I got to challenge myself in that way, and I feel learning to be uncomfortable with certain decisions because you are somebody different was really helpful, I guess.
Well, and you've been in the horror orbit before. I mean, there was Insidious Chapter 2, The Babysitter, Killer Queen, X, Scream, and obviously Wednesday has those elements of horror. And I know you've said before that you view the genre as a second home, and I'm wondering if you can elaborate on that. Like, what do you enjoy about exploring characters in darkness?
I just really love being traumatized. I really love going to work and being scared. I love it when people ask me to lay on the floor and cry. I love having blood thrown on my face. No, I think my favorite thing about being a woman in horror especially is because they're always written so strong because you're put in unbelievable situations, and horror is a really great, I think, opportunity because it's pure entertainment. They try to throw as many genres into one, so you get to do the comedy, you get to do the drama, you get to occasionally do romance. I feel like there's a lot of different degrees to a proper horror film, and I feel really lucky to have read horror scripts that I'm really, really interested in. And then, also, when I was younger, I was really into gore. So I think that...
When did that start? Like, what was your first?
I hated horror movies. But I think I'm just really interested in anatomy or things like that. Like, my mom is a nurse, so I feel like I always heard kind of stories. So I like to see that stuff.
Terrifies me so. We obviously have to talk about what it was like working with Tim Burton. He directed 4 of the 8 episodes. Tell me what that collaboration was like.
He is so nice. I think that was something that surprised me because I had never worked with someone with his, and he's a legend. Exactly. So I hadn't worked with someone who had built such a resume, and I remember being really overwhelmed by how kind he was, but then also being really scared working with him because he's such an incredible collaborator that I couldn't tell if he was directing me or not. I would go to work and ask for criticism because sometimes I always preface it with the director, hey, if that was god awful, I need to know. Like, just tell me flat out and we'll fix it. But Tim was always so supportive and so encouraging of any sort of decision you made. You could do one take one way and then the next take a completely opposite route, and he'd just be pleased. He was really hands-on. We would be shooting in a Romanian forest at 4 in the morning in winter, and where's Tim? And he's carrying 2 trees and throwing them on the ground and like throwing logs this way and painting actors in blood himself and saying, give me some more, I'm thirsty, with his cup, like he was very, very, very funny, very charming, but then also just always wanted to make sure you were good. He would call me to the trailer in the mornings and say, hey, is there anything in the sides that you're uncomfortable with or you don't feel like Wednesday would say? And we would go through and we'd cross out lines and we would rewrite lines together and things like that. He did not need to be as there for me as he was, and he was, and that was really wonderful.
What is a note or guidance like from Tim? Like, I would imagine he's very detailed from that description, but like, what kind of notes does he give?
Well, you can usually tell when something is wrong when you hear him moan behind the screen, where he goes like, or like he starts mumbling to himself. So it's like something. It's so entertaining because sometimes he's like a little kid and he's laughing, pointing, and has to keep himself from, engaging. And then other times he's like, oh, well, the light just went out, so, like he just talks. That, or he would draw little images before I came to set on the back of his sides, and then he would show up and say, oh, hey, Tim, and he would show me, and it would be a photo of me playing the cello or something, and he would say, this is the shot that we're doing right now.
Wow.
And I would say, oh, okay.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Does he I don't know, would he text and say, I'm thinking of this too, or no?
No, he's just constantly drawing.
Constantly drawing.
Yeah.
Save that.
Oh, I didn't ask for any of them.
No?
Or anything, no. He can keep them.
He could keep them. Well, something that's so different about acting today, like in the actor experience, I would imagine, is the element of the internet and, you know, what the offshoot that sort of happens when you're playing a character, or what people sort of latch onto. And obviously the internet loves you. We saw the way that the dance took off on TikTok and other social media. We saw that, I think I was sort of helping explain to you this, the meme of like what books you're reading or what your favorite things are that has been going around. And I'm curious, like, what is that element of this whole thing like for you, to know that, like, how do you feel about that element to the process? Do you feel like you have to lean into it, or is it best to just ignore it?
No, I've tried to ignore it as much as possible, but I feel like it's getting harder and harder because, yeah, now people are coming up to me and talking about memes or talking about, you know, whatever.
She was like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
But I feel like I've always been scared of social media in that way, because the only part I like in my job that truly love, action and cut. I black out. I don't know what's happening. I don't know if I'm even taking director's notes because I'm just focused on listening to what the other person is saying. Everything else, the interviews, the press, whatever, it's all very perplexing, and it feels weird to have to. It's weird because I heard sometimes you kind of feel like a salesman sometimes, and I'm not trying to sell anything. I'm just trying to, you know, do what's creatively fulfilling to me and what's exciting to me and tell stories. So I think that something like social media, where now it's a part of the job and it's a part of your business, and you have to have a page and you have to do whatever. I think also, I mean, reaching a new platform, I feel like people have more liberty to speak on you as if you're not human. So I feel like it's actually getting harder and harder for me to engage with people on social media or be active in that way, because I'm kind of, you feel like kind of, like you're just kind of tossed to the dogs in a sense. And I feel like people, because they can hide behind a screen, they can say whatever and do whatever. And again, I try not to read as much as possible, but also I don't want to start a fight or some battle trying to prove myself on social media, because I feel like I'm just setting myself up to lose. I'd much rather just spend time with the people that I know and love and ignore that sort of thing, and again, just stay focused on my work.
Well, I want to venture back a little bit to the early days. As you said, your mom was an ER nurse, and the story goes that she bought you a book of monologues and posted a video of you performing one of them on Facebook when you were, 9 years old?
Yeah.
And then a year later, you got a TV role in the short-lived sitcom Rob with Rob Schneider. What do you remember about being on a set for the first time? And how was it sort of navigating that world at that age? Like, what was the learning curve?
I just thought it was cool. I thought it was really interesting. I felt like I wanted to ask as many questions as I possibly could. I actually used to, when I first started getting on sets, I wanted to be as professional as possible. So I would carry around this notebook, and anything that I overheard people talking about, or I would go up and ask questions. I would go and ask the gaffer, like, oh, what are you doing with that C-stand, or what is that light called? Oh, what is that for? And oh, what is coverage light? And oh, you know, I would ask them questions, and then I would write them down. So I had a category for directors, and I never wanted to bother them, and it was only when they were willing to like engage and answer questions. But I made notes where it's like, this is what a mark is. It looks like a T, it's on the floor, it's this color, you know, they assign a color to your character, that's where you're supposed to stand. Don't look here, always look on the matte box here and here. Like, I just made these notes so that when I went on my next set, I already was equipped with certain information. So I knew, like, oh yeah, I know what this mark means. Don't worry. Things like that.
Did your parents have sort of any guidelines or restrictions, I guess, of like to keep in mind on as you started this journey? Like, did they have like, you know, we got to think about school, or if you start not to like it, we're gonna do this?
Yeah, I've always been able to leave, because they initially didn't even want me in the industry, not to not be supportive, but just because it is so cutthroat, and what are the chances? Like, this is kind of insane that I'm even right here.
Yeah.
So yeah, none of us were expecting any of that, and their main priorities was, I had to have perfect grades, I had to have all A's, and if I was given a platform, I had to use that platform for good. And if I ever started to abuse it in any sense, or didn't give back to my community or wasn't engaged in the things that I was always interested in as a kid, I shouldn't be here.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think there was this Kiki Palmer interview where she talked about the curse and the benefits of sort of coming up in the Disney Channel and Nickelodeon pipeline. Like within the industry, there's this idea that like young actors that come out of that are either too polished or they're not thinking about their performance enough. And I'm curious for like, and which is obviously not true. I'm curious for you, like, what did like your time like? How do you view your time on Stuck in the Middle in terms of it being a training ground for you as an actor?
Well, I mean, it prepared me for something like this, I guess you could say, because I was the lead of that character, or of that show as well. And it was Stuck in the Middle, there were 7 kids, I was the middle child, and I had to talk to the camera, and I had all of these monologues, and I had really intense work. It was single camera, which was very different for Disney, which is a different shooting schedule, I'm sure a majority of you guys know. So I feel like just having to hustle in that way and, you know, shoot 2 episodes a week and then do my school and then go home and do more hours of homework and then on the weekends be flown to Disney World to shoot whatever international promo and say Shalom Israel and Konnichiwa Japan and then fly back and do it all again. Like, I feel like the non-stop, because it is a machine. So I feel like having had that experience, it prepared me for, okay, well, entering television again, don't be surprised.
Yeah. Well, because most people obviously get into acting because they love it, they want to be creative, especially when they're pursuing it at a young age. But like you said, it's also a business. There are contracts and there's all these things that sort of put limits on the freedom or fun or growth that you get to pursue in the growth of your career. And like, I'm curious, like, when did you first experience that reality check that there are bigger entities involved with getting in the business?
I don't know that. I feel like everything about this industry has always been intimidating, and I think because I wanted to perform so well and I put such immense pressure on myself naturally, I don't think that anything has really been surprising. I just feel like the further and further you go, the more you get, oh, this is like Hollywood. Like, oh, these are the bigwig producers that people are talking about. But none of it's been surprising. I feel like I naturally am a very anxious person, so I feel like I've always been on the edge of my seat. Like, oh, what does that mean? Or, you know, like I don't think I've been shocked in that way.
How do you think your measurement of success has evolved from those early years of you being like 10 and being in this business to now?
I'm naturally someone who's never satisfied, so I think that whatever it is that I'm working on now, I need to be better about it, but it's really hard for me to like appreciate what's happening now and not what could be. So I was always told that, you know, everything is kind of a stepping stone, because also establishing yourself in an industry as big as this one that you have no connection to, you oftentimes, you know, you have to do jobs that you're not necessarily interested in, or you have to be a part of things because they're all building blocks and stepping stones. So as long as, you know, you build a platform here and someone knows here, then, oh, maybe you'll get the opportunity to work with that one director you really wanted to work with. So I feel like for me, I guess a measurement of success is learning that hopefully I'm now starting to get to a place where I could be a bit more selective about what I want to do, and not everything is trying to establish myself or make myself known, in a sense. I feel like maybe I have more liberty there.
That's good. Good place to be.
Yeah.
Well, obviously we know Wednesday is returning for another season 2.
Yeah.
I think the writer's room has opened, but how much do you know about what's in store for season 2?
I know nothing. I think I'm supposed to have maybe a call in like a week or 2, just so that they could like let me know what's going on. But yeah, I think the writer's room I think is very fresh. They just started last month, so nothing.
What do you hope to see from Wednesday when the show returns?
Naturally, I thought that the show was going to be lean a bit more into the horror aspect. So that would be interesting. I don't want to scare away young viewers, but at the same time, it could be interesting. If there's any kids out there who are also the sons and daughters of nurses, it might be interesting to them. That, and then I don't want to see. Last season they kind of tried to put Wednesday in a bit of a love triangle, which that was like a weird thing to justify, and I don't think that that's natural for her. So I feel like I would rather just focus on her and her experience as a teenager rather than, I don't know. I don't want things to become romantic because that's always, in my opinion, the most boring part of a show. So.
Obviously, you want to start cello lessons back up. What song would you like to do if given the opportunity to select it?
I'm really upset because I really wanted to do a Jacqueline Dupree number. I feel like she was really interesting. She was a very young powerhouse woman cellist, and the only one really of her time that was, I think she had to stop playing when she was like 27 or something like that. But her style was very gothic and very strong and almost haunting. But I feel like nobody played like her, and I felt like she would have been an inspiration for Wednesday, and I tried to get a song of hers in there, and I think that they put her, I think Xavier has a painting that comes to life and she plays then, but I wanted to play that piece. So if there's any sort of time for like a Jacqueline Dupree piece, that I would really love to do that myself.
Well, before we wrap, I have to say, I know we're here talking about Wednesday and everything, but if you guys have finished that, in addition to maybe watching it again, if you haven't seen Jenna in The Fallout, which is about, you know, school shooting and your character surviving it, it's a really powerful film, and I encourage you all to watch it. Not to plug HBO Max, HBO Max, but I just think like it's really something. Your performance in that was outstanding.
That's a really, really special one to me. So thank you for even mentioning that. That one is like definitely one of my favorites that I've ever done. Yeah.
Well, we thank you so much for spending this time with us. It was a real pleasure.
Woo! Thank you.